And we have our eye on an area of disturbed weather. Could end up in the Gulf. Now's the time to prepare. You can get all the information at kpel965.com. So the governor is going to be in town today over at UL Lafayette. I'll be there. You'll be able to listen to the speech. He has called it Our Louisiana. We're going to have it on our website and our Facebook page starting at 1 o'clock, the live stream, and then we will play it back on air at the top of the hour during the Rush Report.
All right. And so you'll be able to hear all about it, what he's thinking. And, one of the major issues that has always been a problem, there are only two areas in the budget that can really take the big cuts because everything else is constitutionally protected, and that's health care and higher education. So Dr. Joe Savoie, UL Lafayette president, joining us on the line this morning. Sir, good morning.
Well, good morning to both of you.
So it's terrific. I am glad that the governor is going to come to town and do this and give this speech. Let's talk a little bit about people think about UL maybe only in terms of sports or that's where I went to school or my kids are going to go to school there. But, those are all part of it, obviously. But there's also a huge economic impact for Acadiana from our university.
Mm-hmm. So, the university affects the community in a variety of ways, from all the purchases that we make for goods and services to the students that we produce who accept positions in businesses and create their own businesses, to those who get professional degrees and come back and serve the community. So, the university's impact is vast, not only from economic standpoint, entertainment standpoint, but just the preservation of our culture and the promotion of our region.
I remember, this is going to date me. I guess 15 years or so ago, one particular day that always stands out in my mind, you and I were talking, I think it was in the House chamber, it might have been in the Senate chamber, and we were talking about higher education. And it's unfortunate that even all of this time later, we don't have any big fundamental changes that have happened. Does that frustrate you?
Well, it's challenging. It's all, if you put it all in context, the state went through some similar budget shortfalls back in the 90s with the oil bust. Mm-hmm. And in order to generate revenue, people didn't trust the legislature that much, so they had to dedicate any sort of new revenue that came in. Now, over time, there was an over-dedication of revenue, so they lost their flexibility in setting priorities. And the two areas that were left out of those dedications because they never had any designated funding source were higher ed and healthcare services. And we are also significant parts of the budget. So when there's a budget shortfall, those are the two areas that are hit first. Mm-hmm. And in the last decade, it's been significant. Higher ed has lost nearly 50% of the funding that it had in 2008. And so it just really put a strain on a lot of things. Now, we've been entrepreneurial. We've protected our core. We've made progress. But that's come with other burdens like increased tuition for students. And, it's getting to a point where we need some stability. Just like any other business, the higher ed enterprise needs stability in order to plan and to grow. And unfortunately, up until last year, we were pretty much, on a seesaw up and down.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Savoie, I want to ask about the relationship with TOPS, because we cover this story from all angles as it happens, and we hear, from the university side that, less state funding is coming in, so the cost of tuition is going up, putting the burden more on students. On the other side of the coin, we're seeing that the cost of TOPS continues going up because they're paying more in tuition as well. So where is it? What is the cause and what is the effect? Because it almost seems like it's backwards. If the schools are going to continue to raise, it's going to cost the state more, which is why the state can't give the money, is what it seems like to an outsider.
Mm-hmm. Well, that has been the case. Now, that was partially addressed and fixed last year when the value of TOPS was set at the last year's rate. So unless the legislature takes specific action to increase the value of the TOPS award, it should not grow significantly, or it will not grow as a result of tuition increases. Mm-hmm. Hopefully it'll grow as a result of more students qualifying.
Yeah.
But you've hit on another issue, the kind of the irony of it. The public universities are more and more dependent upon tuition income because the state revenue has declined so significantly. And that means we're focused on enrollment. Well, TOPS helps with enrollment because more students can afford to go to college. So if you reduce TOPS, then less students will be able to afford to go to college, which means less revenue for the universities. So it's changed the relationship quite a bit.
Well, yeah.
We're just as concerned about the viability and the stability of TOPS as we are general funding for higher ed.
So what kind of feedback do you get from not only current students, but alumni in particular about, boy, it must be all over the map, I would imagine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Generally, people understand what's happening, that the business model is changing. Mm-hmm. We tried to be sensitive. We tried to increase our own internal scholarships, and alumni and supporters have been very generous in helping with that. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to offset the cost as best we can. Particularly, we have an initiative that's a completion scholarship focused on seniors who may have used up all their TOPS and they have a semester or two left to go. And we were seeing a lot of stop-outs, not really dropouts, but stopping out for a semester to earn money. And we want these kids to complete their degrees, so we're offering scholarships, completion scholarships to help them in that regard. And alumni and supporters have been very generous in that effort.
Yeah, and that's certainly true.
You hit on something I wanted to ask, because obviously there's this funding issue that it seems like it comes up every single year, and we have questions about funding and we have lower funding. But you are also, just by nature, what a university is you're trying to look ahead, like you talk about, like that initiative. How do you balance those two things? And I don't know, obviously you want to keep your best professors. You want to keep the rating that you have for, an institute with a high rate of research and going on, and those marks on there. How do you continue to move forward and keep investment going into it when it doesn't look like the state puts you above anyone else?
Well, I've been in this business long enough to know that you never get too excited in the good times or too depressed in the bad times.
Well, that's a good point.
And you have to you have to deal with whatever issues are going on currently, but you also have to keep an eye on the future, where the university is going to be and what the needs are going to be in the future, and preparing it for that future. When all these cuts started, we made some strategic decisions that we were going to protect our academic core, that we were not going to furlough employees, that we weren't going to cut programs of those that were healthy, and that we were going to spin off a lot of the other activities of the university and make them more self-sufficient. Now, so far, so good. I mean, that plan has worked. We've not furloughed any employees. We've not cut any productive academic programs. We've maintained competitive salaries, although not as much as we'd like, but fairly competitive salaries for our faculty. We've recruited a lot of good people, and we've protected the academic core. Now, that's allowed the university, I think, to make some significant progress on the academic side. We've also invested heavily in those kinds of amenities and attractions that will draw students here. That's why you see new housing and a renovated student union and improved intramural complex. All of those things make the student experience better and make us more attractive to students. We've significantly increased our student recruiting efforts, maximizing what we can in Louisiana and moving into Texas and Mississippi. We've built a fairly significant distance learning program. We have over 6,000 students taking courses online, not having to come to campus. We've reached out to adults who have college credit but don't have a college degree with a new completion program. So we're doing a whole lot of things to balance off the loss of state revenue.
Well, and it sounds like lean and mean. That's exactly what it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Dr. Joe Savoie. Yeah, hopefully not mean, right? Let's hope not. Well,
Right.
Dr. Joe Savoie has been our guest here talking with us this morning. As we're wrapping up, any prediction for what the speech might include today? I know, the governor hopefully will be able to say some things that will be comforting, I guess. Mm-hmm. But, obviously he can't make any guarantees necessarily. But is there anything in particular you're hoping he will say?
Well, the reality is that in order to deal with the significant shortfall of about $2 billion back in 2016, the legislature passed a series of temporary taxes. Those temporary taxes roll off the books this summer, this July, which means another huge deficit is going to appear. And so there's going to have to be some compromise on both sides to move towards a solution to keep some stability so that higher education, healthcare services, and important services to the elderly can continue to be supported. There's going to have to be negotiations. There's going to have to be compromise. We don't ask students when they enroll whether they're a Republican or Democrat. We just ask them what they want to major in.
That's right.
And that's our job. And I think that's the legislature's job as well, is to make sure that Louisiana provides solid services to its citizens, compromise where it's necessary, and keep the state moving forward.
Dr. Joe Savoie has been our guest. Sir, thank you for your time this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Good talking to you.
You too, sir. All right. Coming up now on 8:23, and of course, as we said at the beginning of the interview, the governor will present his speech, Our Louisiana, at 1 o'clock today. You'll be able to get it on our website with the stream there, and then during the Ross Report, you'll be able to hear it played back over KPEL 965.
And I'm really just interested to see what it's about, because as it came up a lot with callers yesterday, it wasn't even, I don't think, 2 weeks ago that the governor was here at UHC, talking about funding there and why it's so crucial and everything else. Then, in the meantime, there has been a budget that was passed that funds all that stuff and then cuts the rest of government by, what was it, 25% or something like that. It was some sort of number that was vetoed over the weekend. So I'm interested in what you're going to have, because the public has been invited. They're asking people to RSVP, so, to kind of make sure with space and everything else. But I'm interested, are you going to have nursing students that are at UL Lafayette who have concerns about that side? Because that's thing that bridges both higher ed and, the health department. So we'll see. We'll have to see what happens.
I can tell you this. You're not going to win an election without Acadiana.
That's the truth.
So regardless of, and hey, we'll take all the attention we can get in this area, I mean, let's just,
Right in the middle. I mean, you know how Paul Rob is. I'm worried about the traffic already. I might have to leave at like 9:15 and make our way over there.
Okay, I'm glad you said that. Let's talk a little bit about the traffic. Okay, so you had mentioned this earlier as well, but we'll just kind of mention it again. St. Mary between Hebrard and McKinley, that'll be closed both directions between 11 and 3 to car traffic. Now, obviously, if you're walking, that's fine, or riding your bicycle, that's fine. And, you can just go park on McKinley Street or the Girard Park Circle area if you want to do your parking there.
Move that one.
So just watch out in that area.
All right. It's 8:24 now at News Talk 96.5. KPEL, of course, full coverage of the speech on air and online at kpel965.com and the KPEL News app. Free in the App Store and Google Play.
Do you want me to go drop you off and then come pick you up? I could be Boober instead of Uber. You add a B to it, and I'll be Boober.
Well, I don't know how Sarah would feel if she saw a charge on my credit card account for Boober.net. I don't think she'd go for that. Might not have my regular lunch date with my wife today. All right, it's 8:25. There's more Acadiana's Morning News next.